Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 422, Pasta La Vista. The episode begins with Ash and gang having arrived at a little tire park just on the outskirts of Saffron City, while May was happily holding up and admiring her new contest ribbon from the Saffron City contest last episode, happy that she beat Harley. They were heading on their way to the battle arena so that Ash could win his second Battle Frontier symbol, but they were taking a break, although Ash was eager to stop this goddamn break so they could get back on the road and he could get closer to his destination. Although May had a different idea, as she pulled out her pamphlet book that she had got back during the Holland League, and apparently she found out that it had some information about restaurants in Kanto as well, and there was a page containing details of a local restaurant that serves up some delicious noodles and ramen, even though ramen wasn't just another form of noodles. But anyways, May tried really hard to convince Ash to go, saying that the restaurant was famous for its battle noodles, although Max wanted to go somewhere entirely different, as he excitedly showed the rest of the gang an advertisement that he had just come across when reading a magazine of his that he had just picked up in Saffron. And this advertisement was none other than an advertisement for a local fighting dojo, and the advertisement depicted a Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee fighting. Also, there was free observation at this fighting dojo, so Ash and May could watch if they wanted. Well, really, anyone could watch if they wanted. The dojo also apparently focused on fighting Pokemon, and the battle demonstration that people could watch for free involved the strongest at the entire dojo. Ash was as intrigued in the fighting dojo as Max was, so Ash and Max decided to go to the dojo, although May was still adamant on going to that noodle shop. So Ash said that May could get those goddamn noodles if she wanted to, and genuinely hoped that the trip was worth it and they would be delicious to her. So with that, May and Brock went off to the noodle shop while Ash and Max went to the dojo. As soon as May and Brock arrived at the noodle restaurant, though, the first thing they saw was a huge line of people who were customers wanting to get the food for themselves. Just then, a girl came out of the restaurant's doors, pulling a guy who was wearing a chef's hat, implying he was a chef, out with her. Right as May notices that the guy was likely the noodle chef, she also notices the guy and the girl arguing. The girl's name was Terry, and she was ordering Kyle to come with her to the fighting dojo, while Kyle wanted to stay behind at the restaurant, more concerned about the customers. Despite Kyle's wants, though, Terry pulled Kyle away by the hand, which in turn meant that the shop was closed since there was no more chef, which instantly annoyed the line of waiting customers that demanded the noodles that they'd been waiting for, shouting as loud as they possibly could. May was furious as well, as flames started to form in her eyes, and all she cared about was the chance of tasting some of the most famous ramen in the entire Pokemon world being dragged away from her. As for Brock, he didn't care about the fact that the shop was closed whatsoever, as he was just focused on staring at Terry lovingly, with hearts in his eyes, as she stormed off with Kyle. Seeing Brock distracted by Terry, the person that had caused the shop to close, made May even more pissed off, as she questioned Brock if he was just going to sit there staring, or if he was going to help her chase after Terry and Kyle, in order to demand that Kyle come back and continue making noodles. Without even waiting for an answer, May ran the fuck off, trying to get to Kyle and Terry, and Brock followed, although he still only had hearts in his eyes, and was dreaming of his life with Terry already, just trying to get to her. He didn't give a fuck about the noodles still. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they had decided to sell some ramen and other noodles themselves, and decorating their own custom ramen stand that was decorated with large R symbols and a golden Meowth head. Team Rocket were very proud, examining their creation, and they happily thought of all the money they were going to make from this new business venture of selling ramen. James suddenly realized, though, that none of them knew how to even make ramen in the first place, and that meant that they wouldn't actually be able to make any money. Jessie immediately snapped out of her excitement that she was in upon seeing the ramen stand, saying that she thought that James knew how to make it. She obviously didn't know how to make it. This just made James panic, staring at Jessie blankly before looking at Meowth and asking if Meowth somehow knew how to make ramen, although Meowth stated that he thought Jessie knew how to make ramen, meaning that, in fact, none of them knew how to make ramen and were operating a ramen stand for no fucking reason at that point. This leads an extremely frustrated Jessie to yell at James, complaining that the ramen stand was totally useless, and the three of them all started to argue on who should be the one to have to learn how to cook ramen or some shit, when they suddenly noticed Ash and Max walk past on a nearby street behind the ramen stand, and Ash and Max were completely oblivious to Team Rocket watching them, instead talking about the dojo that they were approaching, with Max being able to direct Ash to it, since the advertisement he found had the directions. This, of course, gave Team Rocket the idea to try and catch Ash and Max off guard and steal Pikachu, with Jessie and James deciding to abandon their useless ramen stand and hopefully just get money from Giovanni by bringing in Pikachu, and Jessie and James quickly run off after Ash and Max. Meowth kind of wanted to see if the ramen stand could actually get them some money, so Jessie and James decided to abandon him and simply go off after Ash and Max, leaving him in charge of the ramen stand that he loved so much, telling Meowth that he was now in charge. Meowth was pissed off by this, as he did want to see if the ramen stand could make them any money, but he didn't want to run it by himself. He didn't even know how to fucking make ramen. So he angrily yelled for Jessie and James to come back, but they were already gone, having went after Ash and Max around a corner, leaving Meowth to complain about how he always had to do all the work. Part of Meowth tried to run after Jessie and James, but he knew it would be useless because they were already gone. Meanwhile, Ash and Max had now arrived at the fighting dojo, and stand in awe, observing how ancient it looked and how peaceful it looked. Ash called out, saying hello, and hoping to catch someone's attention inside the dojo, but didn't get any reply, leading him to believe that perhaps the dojo was empty. Suddenly, though, as Max was wondering if maybe they ended up taking the wrong turn or some shit, and they actually arrived at the wrong place. The ground started to shake, and Ash and Max wondered if they were experiencing an earthquake, but then an old man in karate gear jumped out of the dojo and landed in front of Ash, very skillfully, not harming his ankles one bit, despite the far fall. And after he did a couple martial arts moves to show off that he truly was part of the dojo, he greeted Ash and Max, introducing himself as the dojo owner, Master Ham. Ash and Max introduced themselves as well, with Max telling Master Ham that Ash got all the way to the top 8 of the Evergrande Conference, surprising Master Ham, but also amazing him, as he stepped back in surprise and asked Ash if that was really true, which Ash confirms. Master Ham seemed to be contemplating something as he rubbed his chin, and he then circled around Ash, observing him and checking out his body, making Ash confused. Suddenly, though, Master Ham then slapped Ash on the back, saying that if he got top 8 in the home league, then he may be just what he was looking for, and proceeds to push Ash straight into the dojo against his will, as Max runs behind the two of them, wondering what the fuck was going on. Meanwhile, Meowth actually had caught up to Jesse and James, and was currently in a tree with them, spying on Master Ham, Ash, and Max. And noting that they were now at a fighting-type dojo, they decided on their full plan. They were going to steal not only Pikachu, but all the fighting-type Pokemon at the dojo as well. Anyways, now inside the dojo, it seemed as though Master Ham thought that Ash would be perfect to essentially be the gym's fucking servant, I guess, as he had Ash and Max, and Pikachu for that matter, working very hard, waxing the floor, using a single cloth each to clean it. Ash, Max, and Pikachu obviously became very tired from cleaning the floor with just their hands, and running super fast while doing it on their hands and knees. But Master Ham lifted up a sparring stick he had and showed it at Ash, Max, and Pikachu, saying the floor needed to be absolutely perfectly cleaned for future Pokemon battles. Just then, Ash and Max noticed none other than Terry walking to the dojo, still pulling Kyle. Master Ham greeted Kyle, implying that he had met him many times before, when suddenly, Brock and May ran in the dojo as well, still having been following Kyle and Terry, with May still wanting her noodles and Brock still wanting Terry. As soon as Ash and Max saw their friends, they called over to them, surprised to see them there. May and Brock were surprised to see Ash and Max, with May asking what Ash and Max were doing, as Ash simply stares down at the floor, realizing that he was still on his hands and knees cleaning the floor, and wondered himself why he was doing that shit, subjecting himself to such torture. Terry finally notices that May and Brock had been following her and Kyle this whole time, and she gets extremely surprised as her eyes widen when she recognizes May from the Pokemon contest that she saw on television yesterday, specifically recognizing her as the winner of the contest yesterday. Brock then tries to flirt with Terry and introduce himself to her, but Terry just ignores Brock and runs over to Master Ham and informs him that she struggled to get Kyle over, but she managed to bring him. Although, before she could fully finish her sentence, she noticed Ash and Max and asked who they are, leading Master Ham to claim that Ash and Max were his new students, although Ash and Max replied that they weren't and only wanted to come to the dojo to see some fighting Pokemon, not to become anyone's students. And when Terry realizes that Ash and Max had basically been forced to clean the dojo, Terry scolds Master Ham for this, saying that he should never treat his guests like the way he was treating them, and he shouldn't make them do cleaning and shit like that. But then, Master Ham directs his attention to Kyle, staring at him bitterly, as he states that he only made Ash and Max clean because Kyle was unwilling to do the work himself, despite being Master Ham's son and the unwilling heir to the dojo. Basically, he just didn't want to take it over, even though he should have. Kyle hears his father complaining about him, and this gets him angry, as he storms over to his father and begins to argue with him. May wanted to intervene in the argument to try and stop it before it got worse, but Ash suggested that he and his friends stay out of this argument, since it happened to be a family matter. Because, father versus son. Terry then introduces herself to Ash and the gang and apologizes to them for the bickering that was now going on between Master Ham and Kyle, and explains to them why they were arguing exactly. She started her explanation by saying that she was now the dojo's only student when there used to be hundreds. The reason why all the previous students left? Well, it was because Master Ham was getting old, so he wanted to retire and hand the dojo off to his son, but as we already knew, his son Kyle didn't want to take over the dojo because he was more concerned with his passion of being a chef. And this really frustrated Master Ham, because if Kyle didn't take over, then Master Ham would have no one to take over for him, so he may have to close down his dojo. And even though he wanted to retire, he obviously didn't want to shut down his entire fucking lifelong legacy. Terry then reveals that Kyle and Master Ham arguing was a constant thing. It never seemed to end. And as for why she had brought Kyle to the dojo in the first place, well, she actually had a little crush on Kyle, and she wanted to potentially help him mend things with Master Ham, so that's why she decided to bring him to him, even though she knew that it was unrealistic. Brock was still so in love with Terry that he didn't even hear Terry mention that she had a crush on Kyle. Anyways, we then hear the actual argument between Kyle and Master Ham, with Master Ham begging Kyle to take up his responsibilities at the dojo and give up his noodle shop. May's eyes widen in horror as she hears this, though, since she couldn't stand the thought of such a delicious ramen shop going to waste. Luckily for May, though, Master Ham couldn't convince Kyle at all to give up his ramen shop, and this just meant that the arguing continued. So Brock tried to make a suggestion to stop the argument, suggesting that he could just marry Terry, and the two of them could take over the dojo instead, but he was either not heard by some people, or he was ignored by others. Much to Brock's dismay, as the hearts that had developed in his eyes faded. He briefly fell down to the ground in sadness before getting up, listening to the argument continue, to the point where it could be heard echoing even outside of the dojo. Even Master Ham was getting tired of the constant arguing, and suggested that if they wanted to end the arguing and finally settle this matter once and for all, they should have a Pokemon battle. If Kyle ended up winning, he could do whatever he wants. he didn't have to take over the dojo. But if Master Ham won, then Kyle would have to take over the dojo, so that Master Ham could retire in peace. Kyle agreed to this, so Master Ham and Kyle went into another room in the dojo that had the main battle arena, with Kyle and Master Ham standing on opposite sides of each other. Kyle then decided that Terry should be the battle judge, and Terry reluctantly accepted, because she did have a bit of a crush on Kyle, but she was very annoyed to have to be the judge, and complained about how the arguing between Kyle and Master Ham had gotten to this point, where they had to have a battle to settle it. But nonetheless, she annoyedly stated the rules of the battle, being that it would be a one-on-one, and with that, the battle began, with Master Ham sending out a dojo Hitmonlee, and Kyle sending out a dojo Hitmonchan. It had been a while since Ash saw Hitmonlee, so he decided to check it out on his Pokedex, since he was observing the battle with the rest of the gang. May was interested in Hitmonchan, so she checked her Pokedex for data on it. While Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee stared at each other, just like Kyle and Master Ham did, waiting for the official call for the battle to begin, Ash commented that a battle between two fighting types was going to be really interesting, and May stated that she'd be rooting for Kyle, and yelled at him cheerfully for him to do his absolute best for the sake of his noodle shop, because she wanted a whole bunch of noodles. The battle then began with Terry officially declaring the beginning, and Kyle starting off by telling Hitmonchan to use a Mach Punch, which sends Hitmonlee flying back as a fist smacks straight into it. Although Hitmonlee managed to recover quickly from the attack, flipping over and landing on its feet before it actually touched the ground. Master Ham then jumps into the air and kicks to show off his own strength, while directing Hitmonlee to use a jump kick, basically doing his own demonstration of the jump kick to show off the attack to Hitmonlee so it knew what to do. But while doing this, Master Ham, being super old and not as flexible as he used to be, injured his back, and the pain was so sharp and unbearable that this caused Master Ham to fall from the air down to the ground. At first, Ash and gang, Kyle and Terry, along with Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, shocked and couldn't do anything, but they then managed to run over to Master Ham, who was now sitting on the ground, rubbing his hurt back, and as Terry examines Master Ham's injured back, she tells him that he shouldn't push himself so hard due to how old he was, and suggests that he give up on the battle, but Master Ham remained determined to battle Kyle, and simply lied that his pain was nothing and that he was fine, but Terry knew that this wasn't the case. This led Ash to suggest that Master Ham should let him fight with Hitmonlee in his place, since Master Ham was injured, and Ash would like to get some more experience with using fighting-type Pokemon. Master Ham then got up in excitement that someone actually wanted to battle for him, which concerned Terry, as she figured that Master Ham shouldn't strain himself, but Master Ham just stated that he would gladly give Ash his Hitmonlee to battle with for the time being. Although Kyle objected, saying that he didn't want to battle Ash, since Kyle believed that it would be pointless for him to battle a replacement for Master Ham, since if Ash used Hitmonlee, he wouldn't know how to use it very well, especially since Ash admitted that he wasn't very familiar with fighting-type Pokemon, and since Kyle was very familiar with Hitmonchan due to spending his life at the dojo, despite wanting to pursue a different path career-wise, it wouldn't be a fair battle, and Kyle would just mop the floor with Ash. Hearing this, May cheerfully threw her hands in the air, saying that she would battle in Kyle's place to make the battle a fair battle. It would be May using a Hitmonchan she had never used before, and Ash using a Hitmonlee she had never used before. Everyone was shocked that May suggested this, but May commented that the reason why she was so willing to battle was because she wanted to battle for the sake of the noodle shop, stating that she would battle for Kyle if Kyle would make her some of his delicious noodles that she wanted so much. Terry tried to object to this because she didn't like the idea of Kyle making some special noodles for another girl aside from her, because, she liked Kyle and all that. But Kyle agreed, stating that it was a good idea for two trainers inexperienced with fighting Pokemon to fight in his and Master Ham's stead, and he put his hand on May's shoulder and basically told her that if she won, then he would definitely cook her up some of his delicious battle noodles just for her. Max wondered if both May and Ash would actually be able to control Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan since they've never used them, and suggested that they should train with them first. And Master Ham said that he had other Pokemon in his dojo that Ash and May could train against. So Ash and May, along with Master Ham and Max, went outside to do some training. Just as everyone went outside, it was revealed that Team Rocket was spying on the dojo and spotted both Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee and planned on stealing both of them. And they walked all around a little fenced area just outside of the dojo parameters before sneaking in past the fence and into some bushes to observe Ash's training, to see Hitmonlee's strength. Anyways, Ash was currently training Hitmonlee against one of the dojo's Hariyama, while Max and Master Ham observed. Hariyama started off by using several arm thrusts, but Hitmonlee was able to dodge each one of them and landed a successful rolling kick attack, causing Hariyama to spin uncontrollably, and then this allowed Hitmonlee to follow up with a high jump kick attack, which knocked Hariyama back and on top of Team Rocket, who were still spying from some bushes. So when Hariyama ended up getting knocked out by this attack, Team Rocket was almost knocked out as well, due to Hariyama's weight. With Hariyama defeated, it was recalled into its Pokeball by Master Ham, and Team Rocket quickly took this opportunity before they were spotted underneath the Hariyama to run the fuck away, deciding to find Hitmonchan instead and focus on stealing it. Master Ham then laughed at Ash's skills in complete amazement of how good Ash was with Hitmonlee, and even commented jokingly that if Ash were able to take over the dojo, then Ham could just retire immediately and go follow his dreams. Although Max stated that he thought the entire point of this training was to have Ash beat May so that Kyle would have to take over the dojo, and Pikachu happened to be confused as well, so Master Ham clarified that he was just joking around and shit, and stated that with Ash's help, Kyle would soon be in charge of the battle dojo. Meanwhile, on the other side of the outside of the dojo, May was training with Hitmonchan against a Breloom from the dojo, which Kyle had sent out, because Kyle, Brock, and Terry were watching the battle between Breloom and Hitmonchan, and Breloom started off the battle by using a stun spore, but May told Hitmonchan to dodge, and it did. Very quickly, making Brock impressed at Hitmonchan's speed. However, when Hitmonchan went in for a tackle, Breloom dodged this, and Hitmonchan and Breloom just continued to dodge and dodge and dodge and dodge each other's attacks, in turn making Brock impressed with Breloom's speed as well. However, by this point, the stun spore that had been launched by Breloom had found a new target, being Team Rocket, who were spying on this battle from some nearby bushes, like they had said, since they now wanted to capture Hitmonchan, but due to the stun spore affecting them, they were paralyzed. So they couldn't do jack shit, aside from cough. But their coughing wasn't heard, since Brock, Kyle, Terry, and May were too focused on the battle. Since Breloom then rushed towards Hitmonchan and used a sky uppercut, although May, having learned from her Pokédex and Kyle's tips that he had been giving her throughout the entire practice battle with Breloom thus far, that Hitmonchan could use sky uppercut as well, told Hitmonchan to counter with the same attack. Doing so worked in May's favor, since Hitmonchan was faster than Breloom, and this allowed Hitmonchan to strike first, so this sent Breloom high up into the air. Kyle then gives another suggestion to May, telling her to use a powerful Mach Punch, and Hitmonchan successfully uses this attack to knock out Breloom, meaning that May and Hitmonchan had won the battle, so May celebrated, punching her hand up in the air as Kyle walked up to her and said that she did absolutely great and was confident that she could beat Ash, and therefore he wouldn't have to take over the dojo. Although Terry tried to convince Kyle that May actually didn't do that good, and she could actually lose against Ash, and basically still just wanted Kyle to take over the dojo, but Kyle refused, stating he didn't want to run what he called a dump. Terry was very angry at Kyle for calling the dojo a dump, and Kyle didn't want Terry to be angry at him, so he said that he didn't mean what he said. Terry quickly apologized herself, saying that she was just overly emotional because she really wanted Kyle to take over the dojo, and she didn't want him to insult it because she always had dreams that the two of them would run the dojo together someday. Although Terry then admitted that really she just wanted to do something together with Kyle, period, and she thought the dojo would be the best way that they could do this, and blushed when she said this, leading May to come to the conclusion that Terry probably had feelings for Kyle that were way stronger than what she said earlier, and it was then that Brock finally realized this truth, being that Terry didn't like him, but instead liked Kyle, and he became depressed, falling to the ground for a second because of this, hating the feeling of rejection, even though he should have been used to it by now, you'd think. Once Brock had relatively recovered from his rejection, it was now time for everyone to return to the dojo, since both May and Ash had completed their training matches, so everyone went back inside the dojo, with Ash and May standing on opposite sides of the battlefield, with Ash of course using Hitmonlee, and May of course using Hitmonchan, and Terry still being the referee. Kyle then shouted out some support to May and Hitmonchan, while Master Ham shouted out just some support to Ash and Hitmonlee, while Max and Brock watched, with Pikachu resting on Brock's shoulder, and the battle was officially declared started by Terry, who once again called out the rules for the battle, being that it was a one-on-one. So, after a stare down between Ash and May and Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, Ash started off having Hitmonlee use a rolling kick, and May told Hitmonchan to use Sky Uppercut. So both Pokemon jumped at each other, and their attacks hit at the exact same time, with Hitmonchan's fist slamming into Hitmonlee's face, and Hitmonlee's feet slamming into Hitmonchan's face, sending both Pokemon flying back, while Master Ham complimented Hitmonchan's Sky Uppercut, admitting that it was pretty good, and complimented May in general, admitting that it was a pretty good strategy to use a Sky Uppercut to defend against the rolling kick. Kyle thought that May had a really good strategy as well, mentioning that the trick of fighting type Pokemon was utilizing your opponent's energy. Hitmonchan then goes in for a Mach Punch, although Hitmonlee dodges and strikes with a jump kick, knocking Hitmonchan back against a wall. Rock, Max, and May were shocked by Hitmonlee's little comeback, while Master Ham congratulated Ash on the great attack. A surprised May asked Hitmonchan if it was okay, and Hitmonchan got up and nodded, ready to fight again. Kyle then suggested that May go for a counterattack, so May obliged, telling Hitmonchan to use a Comet Punch. So Hitmonchan runs toward Hitmonlee and fires off several fast punches, which Hitmonlee manages to dodge for a little bit, but eventually it was hit by a few Comet Punches and was sent toppling back onto its back. Ash begs Hitmonlee to get back up, and Hitmonlee obliges, but May didn't give Hitmonlee enough time to recover and ordered another Mach Punch right as Hitmonlee struggled back to its feet. So this smashes Hitmonlee right into the dojo wall as payback for when Hitmonlee did the same thing to Hitmonchan, making Max surprised at how well May was doing, with Brock explaining that she had a reason to fight, as May becomes all fired up at the prospect of saving the battle noodles and all of the other noodles at the noodle shop, saying that no one would stop her from having them because she wanted them so much. Ash was a little shocked by May's mood and told her to calm down, although Master Ham yelled at Ash to keep his guard up no matter what. Right as Hitmonlee managed to get back up and kind of wobbled while standing, May told Hitmonchan to use an agility and rush towards Hitmonlee before it could counter. And once Hitmonchan had done this, May ordered for Hitmonchan to use another Mach Punch. Ash tried to tell Hitmonlee to release an attack first, but the Mach Punch hit before Hitmonlee could strike. Despite this, though, Hitmonlee was able to get off an attack after the Mach Punch when Hitmonchan went in for another one, as Hitmonlee used a jump kick to knee Hitmonchan in the face, knocking Hitmonchan flying back and onto the floor, shocking May and Kyle. Well, Master Hand starts to laugh, telling Kyle that the battle was won and he should say goodbye to his noodle shop, although Kyle said that the battle was not over until one of the Pokemon uses their strongest attack, and Master Hand instantly knew what attack Kyle was talking about. Ash and May heard this, so they both decided to call for Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee to use their strongest attacks. After Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee and Ash and May did a bit more of a staring contest. Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee knew what their strongest attacks were, so they both used a focus punch at each other. Both Pokemon determined to end the battle, being motivated by Ash and May, but right before the attacks could hit, the roof of the dojo caved in due to an immensely large explosion, which startled Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, preventing them from attacking, as the entire room filled with smoke from the explosion. Team Rocket then jumped out of their mech that had appeared and caused the explosion when it crashed through the roof. And they quickly did their motto, with James Chimeco joining in, and they got back into their mech immediately after the motto. It was then that the smoke fully cleared, so everyone was able to get a better look at what Team Rocket's mech even looked like, with Kyle and Master Ham commenting that it looked like two massive bowls of noodles attached at the bottom of it with wheels, and one mechanical arm holding a pair of chopsticks, and the other holding a net with Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee inside, because Team Rocket had just captured Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. May and Ash demanded that Team Rocket return Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee so the battle could be finished, with May really wanting her noodles, but Team Rocket refused as they just turned around in their mech and started to make their getaway. But Terry then took action, startling Team Rocket inside their mech as she sent out her Hitmontop and told it to use Rapid Spin, which destroyed the net that was holding Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee that was inside the mech's hands. So this freed Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. Terry was determined to defeat Team Rocket, though, now telling her Hitmontop to use a Mega Kick, which destroyed the top half of the mech, leaving Team Rocket revealed, sitting in their cockpit. Once Hitmontop landed, since Team Rocket was now revealed, Ash saw the perfect opportunity to use a Thunderbolt, which caused an explosion, destroying the mech and sending Team Rocket blasting off. With Team Rocket gone, this just left Ash and Gang, Master Ham, Kyle, Terry, Hitmonchan, Hitmontop, and Hitmonlee to all look at the ruined dojo and the destroyed roof, thanks to Team Rocket. Master Ham was immensely saddened by the destruction, sitting down and thinking of all the hard work that would have to be done to repair the dojo and continue running it if he did happen to win the battle, but then he realized that the battle was interrupted and it would be hard to battle in a destroyed dojo, so everything was fucking fucked, man. Kyle sat down as well, thinking of his time at the dojo, before Terry asked Kyle why making noodles was so important to him, leading Kyle to look up at the destroyed dojo roof as he explained that his love for noodles all started when his dad made noodles for him back when he was a kid, and he was really good, so he became motivated to make noodles just as good as his father's and run a successful business, showing everyone that he was capable of making perfect noodles and also doing something as great as what his father had done with his dojo. This whole time, Master Ham thought that Kyle was just making noodles for no reason whatsoever, but now that he realized his son's true reason, he decided to permit Kyle to continue to pursue his dreams and run his noodle shop. Kyle thanked his father, and the two of them bowed to each other to apologize for all the fighting they had done together, and they hugged one another, with Master Ham saying that all he wanted was for Kyle to be happy. At the end of the day, that's what he realized. And they both forgave one another for the countless times they had argued. Terry was immensely happy that the argument had stopped, and took the opportunity to suggest that while Kyle should continue his noodle business, Master Ham should let her take over the dojo, saying that it had always been her dream, and Master Ham accepted, which made Terry blush with excitement. Ashton asked Master Ham what his dream was, since Kyle and Terry had both revealed theirs, and Master Ham admitted that his dream was to travel the world selling noodles from a mobile noodle stand, and we see a little vision of this, revealing that Master Ham himself always had a passion for making noodles, but he figured that his dojo was more realistic, since it was something he could run from home, and since he had already built up his dojo's legacy, that's why he wanted his son to continue it. But now that Terry was willing to take over the dojo, he was more than happy with Kyle and him both having their own noodle ventures. Terry then suggests that maybe they combine the dojo and the noodle shop, since Master Ham was a fan of both, and both Kyle and Master Ham liked this idea, so it was accepted. Kyle then requested that Master Ham make the same noodles that inspired him to make noodles before he leaves back to his noodle shop, and Master Ham agreed, and soon enough he had made noodles for everyone, and they all sat down in the dojo to enjoy delicious noodles, much to May's delight, as she had been waiting for a long time. Once the noodles were done, Ash and the gang complimented Master Ham on how good they were, and said goodbye to Master Ham, Terry, and Kyle as they left the dojo to go off towards the battle arena, the site of Ash's next Battle Frontier challenge, which Ash talked to Pikachu about as they left, asking if he was ready for the battle, and Pikachu confirmed.